Um, Apparently this video is fucking every step from strongest to weakest. I've never watched content from the channel, so it's gonna be interesting. Also have a massive love for Star Wars. That's also gonna be interesting. I'm just gonna kind of see how it goes. I will monitor the volume. I'm not sure if it's gonna be too soft or too loud.
The Sith have had many legendary and
Too loud is definitely the answer to that one.
overpowered members over the years, and to be quite honest, there's not a single one that is weak in any real way. You have to imagine these are the main.
I don't know. I feel like there was some pretty shitty Sith, or they featured for a whole 5 seconds and just kind of got insta dead. I mean, fucking Count Duke, dope as he was, apart from the one fight where he beat bitch, did nothing and go anything apart from being. I don't know.
Antagonists of pretty much the whole Star Wars franchise, and they just kind of annihilate and go.
I don't know if they were the. I suppose they.
Everybody, the entire.
They kind of were the antagonists, I suppose. Like, it's weird to think about it as that because they're like, oh, they were the bad guys, but and hey, the whole plan was fucking Darth Sidious, which I suppose kind of. I feel like there were other people that ventured into that.
Story until pretty
it's
much
Darth Maul. Fucking underutilized character. I was such a fan of. I still really like Darth Maul. I think he's dope. He looks cool. I mean, he was red and had double-bladed lightsaber. What child wouldn't have been fucking enthralled by that?
The end of whatever arc they're a part of. That being said, there's not a single one you can
Hey,
reference
it's Cartoon Yoda.
Anti-feat or a weakling among them. An example, when you refer to someone being downplayed like, oh, Revan is only downplayed to be Maul level, it just doesn't work because...
When the fuck did this happen? What happened in these animated series that I apparently don't know about? Also, since when the fuck was Revan supposed to be shitty? He was like literally the strongest Darth ever at that stage, wasn't it? I mean, him and Malik were pretty much the shit, were they not? I mean, they always took down the entire fucking Jedi army at that point.
Even Maul is an absolute beast, and so are many others that people consider lower on the list. That being said, we're going to take a similar approach that I did in my Saiyan ranking video.
Ooh, there's ranking all Saiyans. That's something we're going to need to watch. Why the fuck is Kefla even on this picture? Okay, never mind, I take it all back because she did manage to go Super Saiyan 2. That's also not Kefla, that's Caulifla. But hey.
Heavily recommend if you like Dragon Ball, by the way. And by that, I mean we will be ranking the Sith in general categories or tiers, as Star Wars scaling is very, very contentious. In fact, I'd argue it's the most nerdily debated about thing besides...
Actually, that's a very good point, because they don't really, like, they don't do shit. I feel like it's not necessarily... Star Wars isn't like shonen-y, where it's like, oh, people have power, they fight each other, the winner's the best kind of thing. It's very much about, like, more than just the raw scale of power. Even like the whole Darth Sidious plot wasn't really to do any like physical ability or capability or power. It was all about his like deception and manipulation, blah 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 blah. So I feel like it's actually very true. Because I mean, you have fucking something like the Force. Okay, I know it's a game, but you have like the Force Unleashed. But homie ripped down a fucking Star Destroyer out of orbit, but was weaker than Darth Vader. I'm just saying, I watched the movies. Darth Vader had some cool scenes. At no point did he rip a fucking Star Destroyer out of the orbit to stop it from flying away. I'm just saying. I feel like so much of the power is just like for entertainment's value and for like, oh shit, that's dope, that's cool. Not really like, hey, we need to have a continuation or like a continuity in terms of power scaling and who's stronger than who and who's better than who.
Besides Goku versus debates. You'll see forums of people arguing about the same thing for almost a decade straight, writing mini novels back.
Oh, so in other words, what they're talking about is Goku versus Superman. Superman wins. Fun fact. Don't give a fuck what anyone says. Superman wins.
Back and forth about why this strongest Sith statement is above the other. It's pretty complicated, so I just want to forewarn, by putting someone low on the list, I am by no means disrespecting them because I...
Oh, he's 100% disrespecting it. Some of our favorite characters are going to be low on the list, and now we're going to fucking indict this man.
I think every Sith is an absolute savage. Also, I need to clarify that a
Ooh,
Sith isn't
Freya.
some dark
Freyna?
cloaked guy with a red lightsaber, say such as the Inquisitors. Sith are a very particular set of
Oh, no, fuck that. I'm saying a random name that was not her name. But whatever, the chick from KOTOR 2. Kira? I'm sure he's going to tell us the name.
individuals that have reached certain phases of development and recognition. At the end of the day, a Sith is a part of a religion, not just someone who uses the dark side.
I actually agree with that. I do think they have to have attained the title of like Sith or Darth, or decided to partake in being a Sith, not just I'm a fucking dark Jedi, or I'm a little evil bitch, or I fucking force choked a bitch out once. Kind of thing. They have to actually decide that they are that. Otherwise, it would just be a dark force user. So I think he is right on that one, and I agree with him on that one. I think that will also, if it had to be all dark force users, we would be here for a lot longer than 28 minutes. And by 28 minutes, I mean I've been speaking for majority of the whole 1 minute 40 that's actually played. Also, fun fact, side note, I'm listening to the Darth Bane trilogy. It is on YouTube. Somewhat contentiously, we'll say that. Fucking solid novel series on the third book. Really cool if you're into Star Wars. I would listen to that. That I cannot link in the description because that is not supposed to be on this platform. But you should know how to find it.
Example, Asajj, Dooku's apprentice, isn't a Sith because of the rule of two, which only allows 2 Sith at a time.
Wait. That I might have an issue with because the rule of two isn't necessarily the only practice the Sith undertook. It is the most common practice in the modern era, fair enough, where it was the rule of two. And I think it was since Darth Bane that was kind of introduced. But there was times before that where it wasn't. Like a lot of the Old Republic shit, it was not the rule of two. By the Old Republic shit, I mean before the Old Republic shit. Or even actually during the Old Republic stuff. I'm pretty sure there was a lot more than the during / pre that when they had the training bases on Korriban, and even before that with all the temple, all the tombs, and like the Dark Brotherhood and all of that. I don't think it was only the rule of two that differentiated Sith from non-Sith, because there was a lot of Sith that still believed in that, or didn't believe in the rule of two, or were in an era where the rule of two didn't exist. So that I might have an issue with.
She's just a dark side assassin with a cool lightsaber. This video will be using Legends canon, not Disney canon post 2014. So
Okay,
no
good.
Kylo Ren.
Why? Not that I actually really am a big fan of Kylo Ren. I think it would be cool if they threw in the new shit and the old shit, and the shit that does, or the shit that's no longer canon and the shit that is still canon. I just think that would be cool.
If you want a basic idea of what I think Kylo Ren or
Okay, that we do need to watch. And also, if it's not Darth Vader, I'm fucking going to be upset about that. Just saying.
Snoke are capable of, and etc., you can watch my Darth Vader versus Kylo Ren video in the description. With that out of the way, we can
That is definitely getting marked for watch later before we fucking
starting with Class
leave
N,
here.
we have the Sith Triumvirate from Knights of the
Class N. Oh, Jesus. Darth Treya, that was her name. Sion and
Old
Nihilus.
Republic 2, which is a group of 3 Sith named Treya, Sion, and Nihilus. One thing I would like to clarify is that video game Sith are rather bizarre, as they can be either absurdly powerful.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Order,
That makes it very
weak,
difficult.
depending on your interpretation. Due to this, I will be presenting both sides of the argument.
I actually understand that. I suppose in something like KOTOR, where, okay, I suppose Treya is the final boss. There is that, but I mean, like, you have a lot of it that's, like I said earlier, some of it's like story driven through like manipulation, deception. Some of it's just like fucking Starkiller just ripped his Star Destroyer out of the sky because it's fucking dope. And then there needs to be that.
For the video game Sith in particular, so don't jump the gun and get mad about Nihilus's placement quite yet. We'll talk about how you can throw hands higher on the list in just a second. The pecking order for the trio of Sith, though, at least by the end of Knights of the Old Republic 2, should see the restored Treya as stronger than Sion, seeing as she was able to
That's
force
fair.
choke him while he had his saber drawn prepared to kill his former master, with Treya stating around the same time that the power that Nihilus possessed was in a whole other realm above her own. Now, why that exactly places these three in their respective class is a statement made by both Treya herself, as well as the Knights of the Old
I'm going
Republic
to bump
2
this up
game
slightly
director
because we
and
are
writer,
most of the
Chris
time
Avellone,
pausing.
where it is stated that Nihilus at the end of his
In reference to your last sentence, do you feel that despite Nihilus' supposed inferiority to ancient Sith, to like Naga, etc., in raw power that he could contend / best them in other aspects of combat? This comes up a lot concerning Force user versus Force user, and my answer doesn't usually go over well. Still, if you want to know the simple answer, it depends on the narrative set up. I don't tend to answer it as if it were an isolated cage match scenario. That is very true. And I think that's something that, like he's pointed out here, like I said earlier, it's about the story, it's about the narrative more than it is about 1v1. Like, so much of X character in DC versus X character in Marvel, or any, I suppose, anime as well, where the narrative often dictates who would win, then rather the feat, strength, or powers of the significant person. And I mean, there's been a lot of accounts in, I mean, DC of the whole fucking Batman vs Superman thing where they've asked a lot of the writers before they've written, who would win or their opinion, and the answer is often whoever I need to win. I feel like that's a very good way also for Chris, I don't know who this Chris Avellone is, to answer that.
Power progression seen in game was weaker than the ancient Sith Lords, with Naga Sadao being explicitly name-dropped here. However, it should be mentioned that Treya imagined Nihilus to potentially become a threat to the entire galaxy and all life therein via his trademark prowess over Force Drain. This leads into a larger point, with even Chris Avellone stating that when it comes
hello, Mr. Avellone. I have a question about Darth Nihilus. In the dark side route on KOTOR 2, Trey says that once Nihilus reaches the peak of his power, he revivals some of the ancient Sith. Does that mean before that he was weaker than them and who Naga Sadao? What? He was weaker than them and who? Weaker as in, was he weaker than Naga? Was he weaker than Naga Sadao specifically, and then also other ancient Sith? At the time of KOTOR 2, yes, he was weaker, and I envisioned the KOTOR 3 Sith as far more powerful than Nihilus. It's not all about raw power, though. Please, can we have fucking KOTOR 3? Was KOTOR possibly getting a remake that might possibly be good? So that puts us in a very interesting position then.
to a matchup such as Nihilus versus Naga Sadao, it's more than a matter of raw power. So considering Nihilus' ability to drain the life from entire planets, rather than his battle power per se with a lightsaber, as showcased in the events of Knights of the Old Republic 2, he could be placed much higher, as shown later in the video, and we'll go over who Nihilus in particular can defeat with his more special force abilities, despite his weirdly low battle power. In Class M, we have Naga Sadao and Ludo Kresh.
This is going to be one big fucking list if the tiers all the way to fucking N and M.
Sadao would naturally be placed above Nihilus in raw power as already presented, with Ludo Kresh being
fair.
relative to but likely just being below Sadao, since Kresh was the only one of the two to have their blood spilled during their intense sword fight, implying Naga was stronger or a better duelist than him. Something to note is that the
that is
Sith
fair.
Emperor
That's
Vitiate
solid logic.
at one time feared the spirits of the ancient Sith, with Sadao being named explicitly to be a threat to his power. However, this is A, an early/weaker variant of Vitiate, and B, the statement refers to multiple Sith spirits being a threat to his power. So, it ultimately becomes very muddy and hard to quantify how this statement affects the scaling chain. If you take it to the utmost, then obviously the ancient Sith spirits would be a bit higher on the list, which I'll let you guys decide for yourselves. With that being said, we arrive at Class L, populated by Marco Ragnos, Frieden Nad, and Karnus Mur. Not much is known about Ragnos' power.
These are all just other ancient Sith.
While he was alive, however, this
or like the actual race Sith?
Sith spirit is implied to be stronger than either of those found in Class M, with Ludo claiming that Ragnos would crush Naga Sadao in an altercation. Frida Nad was as well stated in the fact file number 90 to have become far more powerful than Sadao as well. Karnus Mur is more so a Hax-based fighter or character like Nihilus, seeing as his spirit would simply adopt the power of whoever he can control via his Mur talisman. But to place his actual respective power, he has been compared to Ragnos and Frida Nad, being stated to be a powerful Sith Lord in the same vein as the two noted regardless of his reliance on special and weird abilities. In Class K, we see Exar Kun and Ulic Keldroma.
Oh, okay, I did not expect Exar Kun to be this low down.
To completely obliterate the spirit of Frida Nad, seeing as this amulet is standard equipment, it should be valid to consider this his practical combat strength. Ulic then faces Exar Kun in battle for hours on end.
Also, these are all just fucking ancient Sith. I'm just pointing out. We haven't seen like any modern era whatsoever yet. I suppose I think the most modern, I suppose, okay, was the ones from KOTOR 2.
Either opponent gaining an advantage over the other one, with the spirits of old crowning Exar as the Dark Lord, and Ulic claiming apprenticeship under him, considering this alongside the statement from the
Kun Exar, one of the most powerful and dangerous of the Dark Lords of the Sith, he was responsible for the deaths of millions 4 millennia before the rise of the Empire, killed by an overwhelming force of Jedi. The dark spirit of Exar Kun survived across the vastness of time to challenge Luke Skywalker and a new group of Jedi trainees. Kun was tutored in the way of the Force on. Am I wrong about who Exar Kun was? Oh no, 4 millennia, so yes, no, I'm not.
Encyclopedia calling Exar the most powerful Sith of all time, and trust me, there's a few of those. He would be above.
I can imagine they said that a lot of times.
Though, they should probably be pretty interchangeable in terms of strength. There is an argument for at least a version of Exar Kun to be placed much higher, considering one's interpretation, which will be noted further along in the video. But as for now, if you think Exar is a lot stronger, hold your horses, because we will be going over the Exar stronger argument when that comes.
What does this homie mean when that comes? I feel like we're not going that rapidly through the different like options here. I mean, we're not going that quickly through the different like fucking tiers of his ranking list.
We now reach Class J, featuring Darth Malak and Darth Revan. Again, keep in mind that I'm only taking into consideration these characters scaling while they fit at least a somewhat standard definition of a Sith Lord. Seeing as Revan is a fairly anomalous character, that would be especially important to note. With that in mind, Darth Revan should be fairly above Exar Kun, with the new Knights of the Old Republic remake trailer stating he is the greatest Sith in generations, with Exar only having died 2 years before Revan's birth. For those wondering,
why do I think Exar Kun was from so much longer before? Okay, I know it's before his birth, and obviously he's an adult, so I mean you're adding on like, I would guess 20, 30 years. But still, it feels like Exar Kun was from such a fucking like era pre that.
It has been all but stated that the Knights of the Old Republic remake will be set in the Legends timeline by members of the current Star Wars
obviously it has to fucking be in the Legends timeline. I don't know if they've acknowledged any of the like Old Republic era stuff in the new continuity.
Team. Malak should as well be placed in this class for giving Revan a desperate fight. He did lose pretty badly.
To churn out war material almost limitlessly, Alec then becomes Darth Malak. Okay. Of the remade Sith Empire, Princess Darth Revan. The Republic conquest initially goes well, but in time Malak sees Lord Revan as soft, resulting in a tension that culminates in a lightsaber duel. Malak loses his lower jaw to Revan's blade, necessitating a metallic jaw guard. I just thought that was a piece of his outfit. Like a costume design and choice. I am wrong. Returning the favor, Malak fires on Revan's flagship, unaware that Jedi have captured the traitor. Malak assumes the crown of ruling Dark Lord, inheriting the Empire. With Admiral Saul Karras, Malak's fleet spreads terror, and he cultivates Darth Baden and Bastila Shan as his pupils. However, Malak faces Revan again, this time as a reconditioned Jedi in the rematch. I suppose that depends how he played. Malak's twisted dream of protecting the galaxy dies with him.
However, with Revan slicing his jaw off, there is a statement from the Wizards of the Coast.
An imposing figure with ghostly pale features, prominent Sith tattoos, a gleaming red lightsaber, and devastating dark side power. Malik struck terror into the hearts of his former allies. He also wore a vocal mask that may have concealed a form of cybernetic life support. To provide him with powers far greater than even Exar Kun or Freedom Nad, or was cybernetic enhancement too simple an explanation?
Post website that Malik was far more powerful than Exar Kun. It is questionable, however, if this would apply to base Malik, seeing as the article itself implies he is at his current level of power through the Starge Force super weapon, which is basically a bunch of Jedi amping him. Either way, Malik was in control of the Star Forge while he was the reigning Sith Lord, so either way, these two should be above the likes of those in Class K. Revan and Malik are characters, like I said earlier, that are those interchangeable Sith video game types that can be much
Okay.
higher based on interpretation.
I was so confused what the fuck was happening. It's no odd for. Fuck that Star Wars. Jedi Survivor.
Especially considering statements we'll go into soon. So I'll go over how high they can be with those interpretations as the time arises. Another thing about Revan specifically is that when he becomes a Jedi again, he's actually much more powerful, which makes his placement even harder.
Okay. I did not know he became more powerful. So it was a whole thing of like, oh, you've reawakened your powers. And for McGrawdy. I suppose, okay, fair enough. The whole progression system of the game would make sense. Oh, you level up, you get stronger, you better, and then you just fucking wreck Malik at the end. Also might have been playing on easy, but hey.
Harder to exactly quantify, since we aren't considering his Jedi progress or amps after he was the Dark Lord. With Class I, things become very subjective, seeing as the characters here originate from the Star Wars The Old Republic MMO, a game with many different campaigns and dialogue.
That I suppose also is very difficult. See, this is like the era I was talking about where there's not the rule of two in place, I'm pretty sure. It's a whole fucking like city and shit, isn't Ordnance City, like a training camp thing, world, lots of people.
Options all determined by player choice. Those characters being the Emperor's Wrath, Darth Nox, and Darth Malgus. What can be said for both Wrath and Nox is that either of them can achieve the title of Outlander. The Outlander is stated to be vitiate at the time.
I don't know what any of this means. And I've played, okay, well, I haven't played a lot of it, but I've played some of the Old Republic. Valkyrin has lived for millennia using his dark mastery of the Force to assume forms. His latest incarnation is Valkyrin, the mortal emperor of the Eternal Empire. After ruling for centuries, he was struck down in an act of treachery engineered by his son, Arkan, but the immortal emperor could not be vanquished so easily. He evaded death by infiltrating the mind of the Outlander, most powerful opponent. He now appears to the Outlander as an apparition, offering guidance and harsh lessons while carrying out a master plan that remains shrouded in secret.
Greatest opponent.
Those fucking CGI'd Obi-Wan basically into like Force Ghost vibes.
Of course, indirectly,
I'm not reading all of that.
Scale him above Revan, who during his novel was shown for the first time channeling both sides of the Force and should be at his strongest up until then, scaling the Outlander above Class J. The fact that the Outlander is considered Vitiate's greatest opponent, and Revan is one of Vitiate's opponent, yet not the Outlander, would put these said Outlanders as stronger than him more than likely, which is why they're a class above. Malgus is shown being able to harm the Outlander with Force Lightning and Force Push, scaling to either Wrath or to Nox. This is, however, only considering Malgus' scaling as of now, and he could prove more powerful
so
as
confused.
the Star Wars The Old Republic content comes out and updates him. In Class H, we have the infamous Darth
H! Homie only got H!
Bane, someone heavily implied to be the Sithari, the Sith answer to the Jedi Chosen One prophecy.
I was about to say, he was basically fucking whatever Anakin was meant to be for the Jedi, but for the evil people.
Bane would live up to the hype, seeing as he was stated to have garnered a greater mastery of Sith power and knowledge than anyone who had come before him in the Fact File Remake number 22. It should be said that this fact file was
You've said please read, so now I cannot not read it either. I would have ignored that because it was not just a little bit of text. File. Hi, Andrew. Many thanks for your questions. Please see a response below directly to uh, directly from one of our editors. We hope this helps your questions. As you might imagine, there's no simple answer to this, so bear with me while I give you some background. When we started the second edition of the fact file in 2013, Lucasfilm had not yet been bought by Disney, let alone implemented the Legends canon criteria. We had 120 planned issues into which put an immense amount of content. In the years since the first edition of the fact file, all 140 issues of that, there was an immense amount of information to add. We made the conscious decision to cover the history from a little before the invasion of Naboo, including touching briefly on Darth Bane and a little bit of additional background to the Republic history pre-Naboo, and then stop just after the Battle of Endor. We had no idea things were about to get complicated after the buyout, and we continued to produce the fact files. The Lucasfilm Story Group in April 2014 decided that only previous published materials considered canon were the 6 Star Wars films and the Clone Wars TV series. As you know, they also decided that that all expanded universe material was retermed Legends. At that point, we were working on an issue 40 of the fact file, and all of a sudden, we had lost a huge wedge of content. That was exciting. As you're probably also very aware, some Legends content will be brought back into the canon as it's required by the likes of the new comics, the novels, and so on. Some of it will be largely intact, some of it altered. For example, the new canon origin of the B-Wing paid tribute to the old canon beautifully. As I said, complicated. Fucking, okay. I didn't know we had different reasons for why they invented a fucking plane. Darth Bane is an interesting case in point. We don't know officially how much of his former background is still canon. We only go by what's been said so far, in the new material and the time we went to print. Bane was, as I wrote, the most powerful of the old Sith Lords. Arguably, Darth Sidious may have taken that crown. Mind you, until we know more about Darth Bane's past, the debate is set to rage on, okay? So far as the Amazing Knights of Old Republic material goes, it's strictly Legends for now. Whether it'll change will entirely depend on the story group and people like David Filoni. All hail the chosen one of the mighty hat. If KOTOR makes it back into the new canon, we will reflect that in future publications. In the meantime, the second edition fact file remains a testament to the moments in time when everything got complicated. Proud of the fact that we were the first to cover certain moments of new canon and the fate of the Jedi Temple, for example.
Released after the Legends Disney canon distinction.
That was not worth reading.
Creators of the magazine
I am just saying.
Early issues were written at a time when Legends was still canon and had to pretty much rework many subsequent issues up to a certain point to accommodate the retcon. This statement would place Bane above anyone preceding him who would fall into what a Sith was defined to up to that point. There is some contention with this, however, as when he initially discovered the holocron of Darth Revan, Bane believed the rituals described to have been performed by the ancient Sith was too dangerous to attempt. However,
little bitch.
This was a novice Bane, and not when he's in his peak.
A novice Bane. Did the homie just say novice? Novice. Also, this is the book series I was talking about earlier. Fucking dope. Good, great books.
With this discovery taking place in the first novel of his trilogy. So coupled with the fact file statement, it would just mean that Bane was intimidated at first by the ancient
That was still when he was a little
Sith, but
bitch.
eventually got the hang of it over his decades of training and studies and surpassed his predecessors. Darth Bane would also create the Rule of Two, which is basically in order to keep the dark side energy in the galaxy focused in 2 individuals at a time.
I'm pretty sure he's not, well, I was going to say he stole that, but I'm pretty sure he didn't invent the rule. He just reinstated the rule, if I'm not mistaken.
Whereas when there were numerous Sith in the galaxy, it somewhat diluted this focus and power. The other mechanic behind the Rule of Two is for masters and apprentices to grow stronger and stronger every generation until they could crush the Jedi
The whole one to embody the power, one to crave it.
Order. In Class G, we have the Sith who immediately succeeds Bane in the Rule of Two, that being Darth Zana and Darth Cognis.
I mean, Darth Zana kind of look hot in that picture, just saying.
It's been stated
Who the fuck is Cognis? Is that Sith?
in numerous sources that each generation of Sith, following the line established by Bane, grew in power. It was also noted by Sidious that Bane's actual power was directly transferred from person to person via the Rule of Two. meaning every Sith after Bane in his lineage would be stronger than Bane and stronger than their predecessors as the
Well, that's just fucking called some hacks right there. That's some bullshit fucking power trip stuff.
millennia passes until we eventually reach Sidious. Where it becomes debatable is when we factor in Bane's internal scaling. See, Bane was for a large chunk of his life plagued with
The obelisks, yeah.
known as the Orbalisk infection, which was stated to both empower his force abilities as well as degrade his physical strength. Before
Sorry? Powerhouse Blavageninus was host in its hardened shell, formerly nearly impenetrable armor. Orbalisk attached themselves to Darth Bane's body as he struggled through the dense jungles of Duxon. The two parent obelisks fixed themselves to Bane's chest, forming a breastplate. As they bred, the offspring spread out across his body. Although Bane initially attempted to remove the creatures, he soon realized that their symbiotic relationship was one from which he would ultimately benefit. He had to wear a cage-like protective helmet to keep creatures from growing into his face. I am so sure that that is not how the okay, this part, yes, is how the obelisks worked. But I was so sure that it was a case of they enhanced his physical ability, his reactions, his speed, and they would pump so much, like, I don't know, toxins into his system or whatever. They were going to, like, blind rage and kind of go, like, me man, me smash, and lost some of his, like, in thought process. And that kind of works out in his favor because the obelisks were basically impenetrable. And didn't heighten his physical ability and kind of dampened his force ability because they fed on the the force, I suppose, dark side, whatever you want to call it, in him.
before removing the infection that had left his physical body worse for wear. So as the mastery of Sith power state
Also, it wasn't necessarily removed them as much as homie basically died. Okay, not basically died. He almost died and got trapped in his own force. He got trapped in a force field with his own force lightning at the moment of him trying to shoot out his force lightning, and it basically frying his body, and the obelisks were basically still feeding on his dead corpse. So they had to be removed, not as much as like they were removed, if that makes sense.
Statement only relevant to Bane pre-Orbalisk. When comparing Orbalisk Bane against post-Orbalisk removal self, I think it's fair to place his peak at taking place during the later stages of his life. This being based on the fact that in his final fight with his...
Why do you please tell me to please read these? He was faster than she could ever have imagined, and he was using new sequences and unfamiliar moves. He had never revealed during his practice sessions, but somehow she had survived the initial flurry, and now she knew what to expect. The next exchange had a more familiar feel. Bane pressed the action with a devastating complex combination of attacks, but Xana was able to... This is the third book, if I'm not mistaken, and this is the current book I'm busy with, so this is fucking spoilers for me, so chat, say thank you. YouTube, also say thank you. Bane pressed the action with a devastating complex combination of attacks, but Xana was able to intercept, parry or deflect each one. Her defensive style was simple, but performed correctly it was nearly impenetrable. Recognizing this, Bane backed off and changed tactics. Instead of savage, relentless pressure meant to overwhelm her, he settled into a pattern of feints and quick thrusts, probing and prodding her defenses. Instead of her weaknesses, the two of them settled in for a long battle of attrition. Xana had fought him once before, but when he was still encased in the obelisk armor. She remembered it had been like battling a force of nature. The chitinous parasites covering his entire body had been impenetrable.
Apprentice, Xana, he was stated to be moving faster than she thought possible, on top of Bane attacking her with greater force than he had when he was prior empowered by his Orbalisk Rage Amp. So, Bane would have likely gotten stronger after removing the Orbalisk.
I'm not reading all of these because this is fucking massive spoilers. I know she beats him.
This Bane, at least
I'm not stupid,
that same
but still.
power in Bane would then be granted to Darth Xana, Bane's apprentice, who ultimately defeated her master, with Darth Cognis being Xana's successor and about 30 other
Cognis set. Oh, okay. I won't ruin that then. Um, it is not set. Okay.
No name Sith until we get up to Class F with Darth Tenebris, who would naturally scale above the likes of Xana and
No idea who the
Magnus
fuck this
for
is.
the rule of two, being 2 spots removed from the last of Bane's successors.
Oh,
In
fucking my
Class
bad.
E, we have Darth Maul at his peak during the Clone Wars, alongside his brother Savage. It was stated
When the fuck did his brother become a Sith?
in the Ultimate Duels guidebook that Darth Maul's battle on Tatooine was proof that the Sith were deadlier than ever. This should place his power above the likes of Tenebris, a Sith who had come before him. Keep in mind that this was an injured Maul, who then grows stronger until his peak in Clone Wars Season 5. Maul also has some pretty crazy hype for his time, being stated to be one of
What do you mean some crazy help? Motherfucker had a double-bladed lightsaber. We've never seen that
the
before.
deadliest.
And he took on 2 fucking Sith. He took on the guy from Taken and killed him. Jesus, can we not... Why are we underselling this man and acting like a surprise?
Sith in the history of the entire order could beat nearly anyone in unarmed combat, more lethal in battle than the most powerful Jedi, and generally just far more impressive accolades than Tenebris. Savage would as well scale to these statements, seeing as Dooku notes that with training, Savage would rival the Phantom Menace Maul, with a stronger Maul than stated to complete Savage's training.
Note, Maul is stronger than Savage, but they are both stronger than the classes below them and weaker than the ones above. I don't know, but okay.
Dooku then sensing
Also, okay, I didn't watch the Clone Wars stuff, so I know who Savage is, but I'm not that familiar with Savage. But since when the fuck is he a Sith? That would definitely not be clearly the rule of 2, unless he killed more. Well, fucking Count Dooku was still Darth Sidious's apprentice.
Savage's growing powers. In Class D, we have Darth Plagueis and Count Dooku. Plagueis at first goes from considering the ancient Sith, such as Exar Kun, as being far more powerful, to then seeing himself as a peerless Sith throughout all of history, which is backed up by statements found in his novel acknowledging many prior Sith by name. Which places him above Class E is a statement made by Maul during the Clone Wars, which I'll get into soon. Sidious during the Phantom Menace would be relative to
Do you feel that it come to a Sidious would have failed anyway. But it comes to a duel, I think Plagueis may have found a way to undermine his apprentice.
Plagueis, who is Sidious's original master, seeing as the author of the Plagueis novel implied that he could possibly undermine Sidious in a duel. To undermine someone would typically mean harming them via secrecy, so it's hard to say what this exactly means. However, based on the context, with this being a saber duel, it's likely it would have been something that would at least scale to Sidious. Also, one has to remember that Sidious went out of his way to get his master drunk before trying to take his life, rather than just confronting him head on. With this scaling in mind...
Well, that was the whole fucking... Darth Sidious was like the manipulating, I'm going to outsmart you in like kind of way. The whole fucking movies was just a long con by him to get control of the fucking galaxy.
Maul noted that this same Sidious was stronger than anyone else he had ever encountered, such as Mother Talzin. Someone who could do battle against a Clone War era Darth Sidious, a Sith who could, whenever he wanted, ragdoll both Maul and Savage. Count Dooku would as well fall into this tier of power.
Homie also had such a fucking dope lightsaber, I'm just saying.
Seeing as while fatigued, he was able to donate more energy to a Talzin Sidious force clash than the Darth Maul seen in Class E. This is the same class that Nihilus would likely fall into considering his hacks abilities, with top-tier prequel-era Jedi Mace Windu remarking that if Anakin couldn't learn the ability to resist planet-wide force drain that Nihilus had, the entire Republic would be doomed. Meaning Nihilus could be placed all over this list, as it really comes down to who can resist.
I feel like that's a bit of a cop-out.
And if they can't, then Nihilus wins by default.
It's basically, homie has I can win, but then they can just pull out fucking like a block card. I can get out of jail free card. We can avoid, your ability won't work on me, so you suck.
Most of the time, in Mace Windu's own words, may have been able to end the Republic if he was the one that was attacking it, which is why it's hard to place him so concretely. The reason Plagueis is not on the same tier as Sidious later is that Sidious, of course, gets stronger over the years, so Plagueis
That is fair.
to a weaker Sidious would not.
Also, he just lives for fucking forever, so I feel like he's also got in the fucking immortality thing that they were trying to find, that Darth Bane was trying to find from. I can't remember which Darth.
Place him on the same tier as Sidious in his prime, or Sidious at his peak. In Class C, we have Starkiller.
C. I'm assuming it goes fucking then Darth Vader and then Darth Sidious. Technically, I'm pretty sure Starkiller has the coolest feats, but realistically, yes, they do say he's weaker than Darth Vader, who's weaker than Darth Sidious, so fair.
While his best feats are during a time when he wasn't a Sith apprentice, do you think I'd really make a Sith video without this guy? Even though he's not a Sith,
Still one of the fucking coolest stories to come out of Star Wars. I think some of the games have some of the best stories. The whole Revan, KOTOR 1 with Revan was dope. Fucking Starkiller in Force Unleashed 1 was dope. There's such cool stories.
I'm just doing this one for fan service. Starkiller
Give me
was
my
able to
fan
defeat
service.
Darth Vader 1 year before the Battle of Yavin, or the event of A New Hope. This places Starkiller above Class D, seeing as Vader as early as a year after Revenge of the Sith was stated to be far more powerful than someone who was stated to be able to outclass Mace Windu all across the board and was directly compared to Yoda's level of power. Both Mace and Yoda are able to face Sidious in Revenge of the Sith. However, after the time skip, Sidious would be a lot stronger. Even then though, Sidious in Revenge of the Sith, while weaker than his time skip self, should be stronger than any Sith before him via the Rule of Two. Keep in mind, however, that the Vader scene in The Force Unleashed 1 would in no way represent the peak of his power. As well, note that while Starkiller was seen doing battle with Sidious, it didn't seem like it was doing all that much to the Sith Lord.
I mean, that is fair as well.
Galen Merrick, also known as Starkiller, was no match for Sidious.
I forget that's his real name. Every time I was like, now I hear Galen, I just think of fucking Galen Erso. That's why I'm like, fuck Galen, but what does a homie who built a fucking Star Destroyer, Death Star have to do with Darth Vader? And then I forget that he's fucking Galen Merrick. And I don't know if it is the same name, actually. Or just in my mind, I think it's the same name.
The Dark Lord tanking a point-blank final explosion containing Starkiller's full power. We could talk about Starkiller's clone, however, he pretty much disassociates with Vader and the Sith almost immediately, so he really isn't in the conversation of most powerful Sith, even kind of being generous and fan-servicey.
He's not even, in theory, he's still similar, a top-end level of power, I would assume. I think he has cooler feats in Force Unleashed 1. I don't even think the powers are that much stronger in Force Unleashed 2.
Class B, we have Darth Vader. As represented by his peak of power and Return of
This
the
was such a
Jedi,
fucking
Vader
dope
is
scene.
a pretty controversial character to play.
At the end of one.
Place among certain corners of debate, and it's pretty honestly clear to see why. There seems to be two lanes of thought. The George Lucas camp claiming Vader to be a washed-up, depressed cyborg.
We're going to read this because fucking I love me Darth Vader. Anakin Skywalker as a human being was going to be extremely powerful, he said. But he ended up losing his arms and a leg and became partly a robot. A lot of his ability to use the Force, a lot of his powers are curbed at this point. Because as a living form, there's not that much of him left. So his ability to be twice as good as the Emperor disappeared. And now he's maybe 20% less than the Emperor. Huh. I thought he basically had to use the Force to... That's a very interesting take.
Man with diminished powers when compared to his Jedi self, or he's a force of nature forged through decades of self-actualization, study, and combat. But seeing as this is a Legends video, in the actual material of the EU, Vader is depicted as a beast. In the Force Unleashed 2 novel, the Starkiller's clones' battle is fairly one-sided, with Vader dominating the saber duel against this stronger version of Galen Merrick, only losing through a combination of being off-guarded and exposed to Force lightning, something showed to interfere with Vader's life support and thus nerfing him. Without the conflict seen in his battle against Luke Skywalker, which further nerfed him, Vader would reach his apex of power in Return of the Jedi. After losing to a possible dark side amped Luke while he himself was conflicted and nerfed, he was able to physically restrain and withstand the full power force lightning of Darth Sidious.
Oh, he just fucking
skip and at his pretty
throws him down a
before
tube.
Dark Empire,
I forgot about that, and then it didn't at all matter.
Weak to lightning as well, with the reborn Emperor Palpatine noting that Vader did possess the force strength necessary to kill him all along. Further proof of Vader and Sidious getting stronger over time is how Vader is able to destroy himself from a few years ago or so due to A, various sources saying Old Ben scales to Vader in New Hope, and B, Vader considering Luke in Empire Strikes Back to be above Old Ben and the strongest Jedi, even including Obi-Wan. This Luke being...
Also, okay, like, no hate on Obi-Wan. I thought he was quite a cool character. Actually, I think pretty a solid character both across both iterations of the movies. I haven't watched the series. When did he become one of the most powerful Jedi? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he was a little bitch Jedi, but the whole premise was that he was, I don't say one of the weaker Jedi, but one of the weaker masters. He was outclassed by Windu and Yoda at like all times, at all points, kind of thing. Yeah.
Being someone he dominates easily while probably conflicted and weakened. If you want Vader to be higher, you'd have to utilize the idea that Sidious says that Vader is strong enough to kill him. However, detractors debate what exactly this means, as well as
that's also fair.
Only put Vader in a similar category, while he is pretty objectively stated to be weaker. Sidious only gets stronger since this statement in Dark Empire as well.
Placed on my glass instead of the middle nose bridge when I try to put them up earlier.
In Class A, it should be pretty clear. He stated numerous times to be the most...
So is A the top tier or is there S?
Powerful Sith, if not the most powerful being ever born, period. Through decades of training and preparation,
I mean, that is fair.
Learning the deepest secrets the Force has to offer. He's become close to a genuine Force entity, existing more so as a being of energy rather than flesh. His knowledge of the dark side runs so deep to its very depths that he can devise entirely new techniques on the fly, harnessing the higher dimensional energies of hyperspace to threaten the entirety of space.
Basically, homie has hacks and can do whatever he wants is what we're trying to say here.
He's a real titan, and could very well be placed higher depending how far you believe his statements of being the most powerful Sith extend to, timeline-wise.
Higher. Okay, so there might be an S tier. Interesting.
Based on certain factors, however, such as Luke Skywalker's power progression eclipsing Sidious in terms of raw power, he may very well stop here, though. Valkorion would as well likely fit in this class. He would at the very least be far stronger than the likes of the Spirit of Revan, seeing how pretty much everyone in the galaxy is trying to prevent Revan from reviving Vitiate, knowing they'd all be hopeless if he came back. Valkorion as well has some pretty significant lore that isn't really seen outside of those featured in this tier, being described as a godlike embodiment of the dark side, an accolade he shares with Sidious. Valkorion would as well bypass the Bane supremacy over all Sith before him, as his motivations and identity fall outside of the Sith religion, even ultimately becoming an enemy of the faction in his later forms, justifying his placement above the Rule of Two since he's not a part of it. Narratively, this placement would as well be supported as Vitiate was clearly created as an ancient analog of Sidious, both being Sith emperors working from the shadows, sending masked, conflicted thralls to do their bidding.
Okay, so he comes back. I mean, this Valkorion, he was referenced earlier, and I gets brought back, okay?
There do exist hushed whispers regarding certain statements directly comparing Valkorion to Sidious, but until those are found, the debate isn't likely to end anytime soon, especially with Sidious possessing statements that he may very well surpass Valkorion if he's Sith or not. As I foreshadowed earlier, the Sith spirit of Exar Kun would as well fall into this class, as Luke considered his power to be just as vast as any he had ever encountered. There's some debate over if Exar Kun was more powerful as a living being or as a Sith spirit.
Well, clearly a fucking Sith spirit, I'm just saying, judged based off this statement.
Which would change the scaling chain entirely. In fact, it would flip it on its head. With the writer of Exar's comic
hope you're having a nice holiday. I was hoping if you could tell me whether or not Exar Kun was more powerful When he was alive or after he became a spirit? Thanks for time. Happy holidays. More powerful when he was alive. Merry Xmas. I'm so confused now.
Appearances allegedly stating this spirit that Luke
This feels like contradictory to completely everything else.
is actually weaker than he was in life. However, he could be referring to the spirit XR that he wrote, which would be a suppressed being compared to that in his novel appearances. That being someone who had drained various Jedi students until reaching his height of power. But no matter which version you consider, this would be your hypothetical peak XR would scale to, relative to Dark Empire Sidious. This is as well an alternate placement for Sith Malak and Revan if you consider the...
Now we're going to fucking miniatures. Okay, so homie's done a deep dive. We will have to give him that. He's done a fucking very big deep dive if now bringing out miniatures.
Statement made regarding a set of miniatures released around 2008, which states that Revan sits along Sidious and Darth Caedus as the most powerful Sith Lords in history.
Okay.
However, this statement contradicts a fair amount of the verse, such as the fact that in Knights of the Old Republic itself, Malak states that Jedi Revan is stronger than he was as a Sith Lord, with Malak still considering himself superior to Revan.
Well, homie fucking got killed.
So based on this alone, Malak should be among these most powerful Sith Lords in history, but he's absent from the set. This minifigure set also features Sidious in his original trilogy design, alongside Imperial officers who were shown killed in Empire Strikes Back, contradicting the new...
That's also such a fucking hardcore scene. Homie literally murders someone through a TV screen. I'm watching a security camera and choking the shit out of you from a completely different place. If that's not hardcore, I don't know what else is.
Numerous statements of Sidious's peak being in Dark Empire. The statement mostly seems like marketing hype to get you to buy some minifigures, but
I suppose that's fair.
Value and ignoring the contradictions, Revan would be at least around Sidious tier, possibly even higher if you think Revan is stronger than Exar Kun, and you take the writer's statement of Exar being stronger in life than his spirit to its maximum interpretation, which would actually make Revan stronger than Sidious and Valkorion, which gets a little bit awkward in debates, but is possible. Class S, the strongest Sith Lord.
Okay, so there is S. That's okay.
Of all time. Most people generally agree with this, although it's Star Wars, so there's always debate to be made. The justification for the placements in this class are they're scaling to basically Luke Skywalker when he's the Grand Master of the Jedi after Sidious is defeated, who was able to, decades prior, while amped by Leia, overpower peak Sidious in Dark Empire. He is then later on stated to be stronger than ever before, including his amped self, which beat Sidious. To start with, we have Darish Vol, who is stated to have much the power of Luke. Hard to exactly place, he would at least be at the bottom of this class. We then have the Dark Lady Lumaya, who during the Legacy of the Force era was able to mortally harm Luke with her light whip, even briefly physically stalemating the bloodlusted Grandmaster.
So this is all not... So basically, the power scaling was the fucking older you are, the worse you are, the younger you are, or I suppose the lower you are, the better you are. Fucking power creep to the max.
Darth Caedus, who is basically Legends Kylo Ren, puts up a much better fight against an enraged Grandmaster Luke than Lumaya. Darth Krayt, Luke's dark side match, who was able to fight relative to Skywalker against Abeloth, being able to puncture her body, even resisting her force blast. Caedus could be argued above this, however, seeing as Jason Solo was stated to be the most powerful Sith in the galaxy, with Darth Krayt technically being in the galaxy at the time, albeit in stasis. And finally, Sarasu Talon, a member of the Lost Tribe of the Sith, who, after exposing himself to one half of Abeloth's power source, Abeloth being the mother of the Force, was able to blitz and telekinetically manipulate...
That sounds like homie just got fucking hacks.
Kylo video and saw that people wanted to see Legend stuff really bad and not Disney.
But I accidentally skipped stuff.
Anyway, with that out of the way, of the Force was able to blitz and telekinetically
I might not have. My bad.
Luke Skywalker. Anyway, with that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed. This video was written by my good pal Crisis, who I'll link down in the description. He saw my Vader versus Kylo video and saw that people wanted to see Legend stuff really bad and not Disney stuff, and said, I'm your guy, so we decided
Why
to
not
work on this
all of
together.
it?
Thank you all for watching. Be sure to give him a look if you liked what was said in this video, or just want more Star Wars stuff. Until next time.
Okay. Not Goku. Interesting. Okay, chat, that was a pretty solid video. I'll link it down in the description. That was pretty cool. Very interesting. I realized for someone who's a massive fan of Star Wars, I know fuck all about Star Wars, especially shit that apparently takes place after Old Republic and I suppose modern Star Wars. Also, Star Wars, people complain about fucking power creep in Pokemon. No one's fucking brought up power creep in Star Wars yet, just saying. That's basically what we've seen. But otherwise, yeah, good video. We'll link it down in the description below. Like always. We are definitely going to have to watch this fucking Darth Vader vs. Kylo Ren kind of thing. That looks insane. Also, if fucking Kylo Ren wins, I'm going to be very much upset. Little fucking angsty son kid does not deserve to beat old Darth Vader, who was OG angsty guy. OG angsty beats new angsty, just saying. Even though I've just complained about fucking power creep, but is what it is. But yeah.